I would now turn to Rakesh Jinsi to, to give his perspective on whatever that has been discussed today, and how we can have more organizations such as Khushboo. And I think a Khushboo is required in probably every district of our country. The real problems exist in some of the more remote, far-flung areas. We are working in rural Odisha, for example, in one of the held one of our Arise Plus schools is there in over there. So we know the kind of need which is there in some of these areas. So I would turn to Mr. Jinsi and ask him as to what is his perspective on what he just heard, and what could be the way forward for more Khushboos to come up and flourish.
Thank you, Chetan. And really, I must say that it's been a very enlightening discussion, at least for me. Different inputs and so diverse. Really, it's been quite a bit of learning for me. Having heard and trying to superimpose that on what have been our learnings at Khushboo, my view is that probably the entire policy making, as well as trying to service this whole group of persons with disability, it might be better if we look at this group in two different, so to say, sections. There is one group which is rehabilitable, trainable. Their and possibilities with them are different. At the same time, there is a equally large group of people who cannot be rehabilitated. People or children with severe disabilities. They could be mental, they could be mental and physical. So from a point of view of structuring the programs to be able to service both of them, I think if we are able to look at these two groups separately, we might be able to give a better delivery. Persons who are rehabilitable, they have physical disabilities or challenges like hearing impairment, speech, or maybe their physical impairments. Within their limitations, there should be a ecosystem which, first of all, enables them or provides them the required training, the skill, the education which is required, and which they can do through all the assistive technology. So that's one aspect. Second, there has to be a partnership from industry so that they look at this group of people and provide employment opportunities so that they are able to do what they're capable of doing and they earn their livelihood. They also need empathy, sympathy, consideration, whatever we may call, in having special service conditions for them. So I think this group of people need this sort of an ecosystem. At the same time, when we are looking at this group of people who are not rehabilitable, they have severe challenges, and the fact that permanent long-term care and consequently their families need similar long-term support and facilitation. I think there needs to be a separate ecosystem for them, which should be more tailored around, first of all, this environment where parents don't feel hesitant in sharing the conditions of the children, which Mr. Goyal just talked about. Parents are hesitant, they don't want to share. So there's creating an environment which includes and which is inclusive to all sorts of children. And then talking about creating a network of organizations which on one side provide a daycare facility and daycare support, and at the same time provides a long-term care facility, which we also heard that the biggest fear and worry of the parents is who will look after their children when they are not there. Because to expect the siblings or the extended families to look after them is a bit too much. So there needs to be an ecosystem which provides daycare facility at one point in time, support to the families during their lifetimes, and then also provides an infrastructure where these very children who are grown up by then are able to lead lives of their love, care, dignity, everything. So they also deserve it. So, and all this needs institutional support from the government. And at the same time, if we have organizations who are into it, I think there are a whole lot of things which are happening across the world to create a platform which acts as a knowledge center for these organizations to provide to them or have access on the whatever are the contemporary best practices going on. I think if these sorts of needs are met, I think it will be a wonderful thing. And lastly, I think what Anurag just mentioned about was this whole platform which they are to create. I think this is a wonderful initiative, and I would suggest and recommend that if that can be expanded from just being a platform to actually enabler of providing or ensuring that those services or entitlements in some way are made available to these people, because for them it might be difficult given their physical condition or the engagements of their families. So if that platform also provide actual services of giving them, one is awareness and second is actually help them in getting those services, I think that would be a wonderful thing to do. So I think it's been a wonderful session. I'm personally very satisfied, and thank you all of you for all the inputs and overall sparing the time. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mr. Jinsi. I think you really summed it up quite well. That support mechanisms are really required at every level, whether it is the community, whether it is at the village level, city level, at the institutional level. It's only with these support systems can we really move forward together. In fact, some of our projects where we work with children with disabilities, we see that there's as much of support and intervention which is required with the parents, because parents, especially from deprived communities, are quite clueless if there is a child who's born and who shows signs of disability. So there has to be a very strong mechanism that needs to be there to help them out. And we've also seen that that they very quickly form support system amongst themselves. So they find others with children who are similar. But I think of all of us who've been working in this field, I think the as we all know that the more that we do, the more we see that there is to do, and we often also, I think, we need to look at persons with disabilities also from the fact that a person who's visually impaired is very different from a person who's speech and hearing impaired, is very different from a person who's orthopedically impaired, and there required specific solutions for each of these different categories. And even within each category, you find differences in terms of the degrees of disability. So there is a lot of effort that needs to be taken. We need to have a very active mechanism of sharing our learnings, and in that sense, I think today's discussion has been a great way forward to bring all of us together.